triangular material. It's called tartan. And you have the shield. Yeah, next one. This is just again for your interest, the Roman Empire. And the red part here, we can see the British, only England here. And this was the point to the death of Marcus Aurelius, and it would have been about 180 years AD after Christ. And you can see the red parts. So as you see, the Roman Empire was incredibly huge. The next one. Okay. Then we come on to the Vikings around AD 850. Vikings, or sometimes called Norsemen, made a significant impact on the English language, importing many North Germanic words into the language. From the middle of the 9th century, the large numbers of Norse invaders settled in Britain. In the 11th century, a Danish Norse king, Canute, ruled England. As a kid in England, everybody knows about King Canute. It's one of the things that everybody knows. And the North Germanic speech had a fundamental influence on English. They added the basic words, such as, this is going to be very easy to translate, that, they, and them. And the majority of words that constitute modern English do not come from Old English roots, in fact, but the most 100 commonly used words in modern English do have the Old English roots. Here are some of them. Water, strong, the, of, he, and no, and many other basic modern words derived from Old English. The English language we know today is very different from its old ancestor. The epic poem Beowulf is the best known surviving example of Old English, and the Old English period ended with the Norman conquest, yeah? Next one. Here we have a picture for your interest of the Viking warriors. Very aggressive, considered barbaric, at least by the Western world, but probably not by the Danish. Yeah? Here we have a typical Viking warrior. Next one, please. Yeah, this is just the first page of this famous Beowulf, or Beowulf, written in Old English, and I will not ask the translators to translate that. We have one or two words here like he, the rest would be unrecognizable. Yeah? Okay. Now, the Norman conquest and Middle English began in a period of 1100 to 1500, and this date, 1066, anybody that was born in Britain knows the date 1066. William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, invaded and conquered England and the Anglo-Saxons. The Norman kings and nobility spoke a dialect of Old French. Your French teacher will talk about Old French and if it's similar to modern French or not. And the dialect of Old French known as Anglo-Norman, while English continued to be the language of the common people. So there was a class distinction that can still be seen in the English language today, in words like such as beef versus cow and pork versus pig. So la prole would say pig, and the elite would say I'm eating pork. Yeah? Many legal terms came from this time. Words like jury, verdict, and many more complicated ones that I didn't include. They have Anglo-Norman roots because the Normans ruled the law courts. The English King John lost the province of Normandy to the King of France in 1204. But gradually the Norman nobles began to lose interest in their original country and began to adopt a modified English as their native tongue. Next one. Okay, so again the Norman conquest and what is called Middle English from 1100 to 1500. The old feudal system crumbled or collapsed as the new middle classes grew in economic and social importance, as did their language in relation to Anglo-Norman. The highly inflected system of Old English gave way to, broadly speaking, the same system as English that we speak today. By 1362, the linguistic division between the nobility was largely over, and the statute of pleading was adopted. This made English the language of the courts and Parliament. So this is a very, very important date in the history of the English language. Edward III became the first king to address Parliament in English in 1362, and the first English government document to be published in English since the Norman conquest was called the Provisions of Oxford. The most famous literary example of Middle English is Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. I don't know if you've ever attempted to read the Canterbury Tales in Spanish or in English. This period, the middle of Middle English, came to a close around 1500 when modern English appeared. How am I doing for time? Really? Oh, okay. Here we have a picture of William the Conqueror, the Duke of Normandy, for your interest. Okay, here we go to the early modern English from 1500 to 1800. As you see, the Renaissance brought with it widespread innovation in the English language, the rediscovery of classical scholarship, created an influx of classical Latin and Greek words into the language at this time. The invention of the printing press also marked the division from Old English to modern English, as books became more widespread and people were more literate at the time. So soon publishing became a marketable occupation, and books written in English were often more popular than books that were written in Latin. And the printing press also served to standardize English. Okay, here the written and spoken language of London already influenced the entire country, and with the influence of the printing press, London English soon started to dominate in this period. In fact, London Standard became widely accepted, and especially in more formal contexts. Soon English spelling and grammar were fixed, and the first English dictionary was published in 1604. And this particular movement in the 15th century they called the Great Vowel Shift, a series of changes in English pronunciation. And this further changed the English language. Okay, here we have late modern English, 1800 to the present. Pronunciation, grammar and spelling of late modern English are essentially the same as early modern English, but late modern English has significantly, my God, more words due to several factors. Okay, first, discoveries during the scientific and industrial revolution created a need for new vocabulary. So the scholars looked to Latin and Greek to create new words. Here are some: oxygen, nuclear, and protein. As we have scientific and technological discoveries, and they're still happening, and these are called neologisms today. especially in the field of electronics and computers. For example, a mouse for me was a little animal this size. All my life, that was what a mouse was. And now a mouse is used for a computer. We have an example here. And so, as we have new technology, we need new language to describe it. Surfing. Surfing for me was a sport. And now it's something you do on the internet. So just as the printing press revolutionized both spoken and written English, the new language of technology and the internet places English in a transition period between modern and postmodern. So English is still moving on, and here's William Paxton, the inventor of the printing press, just for your interest. Next one. Here is William Shakespeare, or as my wife said, William Shakespeare. I just need the date. His birth date of 1564 may or may not be true, but around that date. And he died in 1616. Wasn't that the same day as Miguel Cervantes? They had the same. They shared the same death day or the same birthday, one or the other. This is a stylized picture of Shakespeare's birthplace in Stratford-on-Avon. And here we come on to late modern English, from 1800 to the present day. And as you probably know, the English language has always been a colonizing force, as you will know from the number of times you've had interventions from the United States. During the medieval and early modern periods, the influence of English quickly spread throughout Britain, and from the beginning of the 17th century, English began to spread throughout the world because of the trade routes. The English were famous traders, famous adventurers and travellers.